Well, as we learned from the January 6th Capitol siege that left several people dead, disinformation and misinformation is dangerous. That's why current and former lawmakers are working to keep Americans accurately informed. Among them is Denver Riggleman. He's a former congressman for Virginia's 5th District and a former Air Force intelligence officer. He serves as chief strategist for the NCRI and also CEO of Riggleman Information and Intelligence Group. He's also the author of Bigfoot, It's Complicated. A congressman and former intelligence officer explores the politics of true believers. Denver, it's great to have you on the show. Thanks so much for joining us today. I want to start with the inauguration. President Biden's theme, unifying the country. What did you make of the inaugural address? Given your experience in Congress, is it possible to unite the country?
First of all, I thought the address was great. The first part of your question, I thought it touched all the points that it had to. As far as unite the country, I had this discussion yesterday with somebody who really wanted to drill down on whether we can unite or not. And the issue that we have is that the words unite are fantastic. You know, it's everybody wants to sort of embrace that and move forward. But what we have now, I heard your last segment about COVID mutating as far as viruses. Well, digital viruses mutate also. And what you're going to see is that you're going to see isolated pockets that are still very, very angry. But the spread of that isn't going away. And what I've been trying to tell people is this, is that just because President Trump lost or because the prophecy didn't come to fruition, that somehow God was going to keep him in place as president, which is what I saw everywhere. And by the way, Tim, I want to tell listeners, it's not like I still don't get tweets and texts that not only condemn me, but tell me I've been wrong about prophecy or I've been wrong about this messianic movement, that President Trump was ordained by God. And, you know, this is the things that we have to worry about, is that this doesn't go away. And I will say this, also the number of white nationalist groups that were involved in that based on our NCRI report was a minimum of 7. And so when you have that going on, it's going to be very difficult, I think. And I think the work is well ahead of us. And that's why I've been so active in this space.
What is the role of lawmakers? And I want to ask you as a former member of Congress. I mean, 147 Republican members of Congress, they objected to certifying the results of what the Department of Homeland Security called a free and fair election, an election that did not have widespread irregularities, did not have widespread instances of voter fraud. Many of these people were your former colleagues. You know many of them. Do they actually believe this, or was this political?
Political. I mean, you know, I talked to so many of them, and they said, "Well, maybe some things are true." I said, "Stop." You know, no, they're not. I mean, you know, we can say that there's isolated cases of voter fraud. You can say things like that, but systemic fraud based on, you know, this Kraken or Stop the Steal or, you know, QAnon-based theories or, you know, incels pushing this up from the bottom to the top. You know, this propagation of idiocy, you know, that sort of swarmed people and took over their minds for a while, to be honest. The fact is that some of the congressional, I would say some of the reps that have been elected lately maybe believe in this tripe, maybe they're IQ limited, but you certainly have many, of the other ones who understand their fundraising has exploded with the grassroots on the Stop the Steal sort of topics, using the same type of wording. So yeah, it surprised me. I still have friends there. I still obviously have disagreements on it, but my real disagreement was that this craziness, this insanity was weaponized. And if you want to talk about digital viruses, this spread in a way it's pretty much unprecedented in American history. And if you think about the siege on the Capitol was done under fantasy. They could have been sieging the Capitol for trying to free unicorns from the basement. It would have been just as believable as the Stop the Steal issue. And, you know, and I was thinking about Ashley Babbitt and the fact that, you know, she died with the same belief systems as a guy wearing horns. And I think, I'm not trying to be funny, that is where we were at. And it is going to be a while to try to get the facts out there.
Well, you know, and it's still where we are right now, Denver. I mean, I saw a lot of tweets yesterday from people who do not believe that the president was elected in a free and fair election. They don't have confidence in the electoral system, despite what we know from President Trump's own Department of Homeland Security, as I mentioned. The question is what do you believe the role of lawmakers, specifically Republican lawmakers, needs to be in order to help move past this, since you mentioned that it is just political?
First of all, you need more than one person speaking out against QAnon on the floor like I did, right?
Yeah.
And we need people to finally come out and admit that Stop the Steal was ridiculous. It's got to be done. And, you know, and I would hope there's going to be a trickle of those individuals that come out to do that. But really the strongest statement would be for somebody to come out and say everything that happened at the Capitol siege that day, the people that were involved, the reason that they did it is absolutely wrong. The thing that I am worried about, Tim, is I don't want to see censorship go across the net, because I have a different perspective than probably anybody else on this. Is I'm worried if we start taking away social channels that we're not going to be able to see the bad actors based on the fact that we don't have access to what they're doing on social media. You're seeing a mass migration right now to Zello, to MeWe. You're seeing a mass migration to Signal, to Telegram. And my issue with lawmakers is that if there is not a sort of this, I'm not going to say a reckoning, that's not the right word, but there needs to be someone who comes out who has the bravery to say QAnon and the resulting conspiracy theories based on people pushed like by Sidney Powell, by Jen Ellis, by Rudy Giuliani, by Lynn Wood, and by the president himself is absolute poppycock. And I think if they can do that, maybe we can start to get a change and get some of these constituents who are lost in this ridiculousness back. We got to do it with love and compassion, but you got to do it. You got to pull the splinter. And I just don't see a whole lot pulling the splinter yet.
Is that going to change, though, now that President Trump is gone, he's out of office? Or does the president still have a stranglehold on the party?
He has massive power. Money is message. And the amount of money that they were able to collect is staggering based on fantasy. And, even in the book that I wrote, you got to remember, people paid thousands of dollars to go look for Bigfoot and to change their lives because they believe Bigfoot could give them prophecy. And that belief systems can completely take over your life, and trying to deprogram that's rapid. Money is message. And now if you see President Trump, his new motto is Save America, it's going to be the same thing, right? And there's some policies people can agree with, but disinformation, lies, and conspiracy theories are something that no politician, no public servant should ever put up with.
Well, this is something that you addressed in an essay that you co-wrote for the Brookings Institution this week. I want to pull up a quote from that. You write, quote, "An independent, nonpartisan public trust should be established to provide responsive insights and policy recommendations to defend democracies against threats of disinformation and the illiberal forces at work disseminating it." Is there any sign that the Biden administration or members of Congress are taking this step to stop fake news from spreading, to stop conspiracy theories from overwhelming channels like we've seen over the last couple of years?
I haven't seen, a specific action yet. I know that there's obviously been people say we have to do something about this. I think it's going to be very difficult to have a government-funded program. I think you can have, people talked about a disinformation czar. They talked about certain individuals like that. That's fine. The thing is, though, is this has to be funded more privately than publicly. Even though we want a private-public partnership, we have to have individuals that are willing to give to this, and we have to have multiple inputs into this, not just the NCRI, but we've worked with Peril at American University or Rutgers or SITE, SITE. You have all these just doing incredible work that's been doing much longer than me on these specific topics. What I'm trying to bring to it is that sort of aggregating all this data, identifying the hashtags and the disinformation theories, where they are, and then attacking them with everything we got by coming over the top and putting out the facts on this ridiculousness. We cannot just strip everybody's First Amendment, but guess what we can do, my friend? We can use the First Amendment to pummel them back. And that's what I'd like to do. And it's something I've been doing for 20 years since I was tracking Al-Qaeda and the Taliban.
Right.
So, I've been doing this a long time. A lot of people are like, well, Denver, you weren't talking about QAnon 2 or 3 years ago. And no, I was just talking about other idiots, right? And so, in the disinformation space. So, and that's what we have to do. We have to have everybody come together, stop pointing fingers. But again, we also can't have a hold my beer moment by the far left either. And that's my issue, is that this isn't just a far right issue. Right now, the far right certainly is winning the race on that. But the race to the bottom has been won at this point by the far right. But we got to look at all sides and all fringes and be able to speak truth and facts regardless of the political inclination that you might have.
I'm wondering if you see this as sort of an inflection point for the Republican Party. Do you see the Republican Party splitting in a sense with Liz Cheney's comments about former President Trump, Mitch McConnell's comments earlier this week about former President Trump versus those Trump loyalists? The Wall Street Journal reported earlier this week that President Trump is considering forming a third political party. What is the future of the GOP?
It's I see the fractionalization going on here in Virginia right now with the tweets that I'm getting. But Liz Cheney has more rhymes with malls than about most of the other Republican lawmakers up there, right? She's tough. And the fact that she came out, now you have people attacking her for stating the obvious. just stating facts, leads me to believe that the Republican Party isn't over with some of the individuals who either believe this or raising money off of it. This, again, you have somebody like a Liz and 9 others, with their votes who said, listen, the longest conspiratorial grift, one of the biggest ones that we've ever had, resulted in violence. And it wasn't just the words that President Trump used that day on January 6th. It was also the fact that he started retweeting that Joe Biden killed, I don't know what that is. That Joe Biden killed, I'm sorry.
That's okay. You're a popular man. You're a popular man, Denver. We know.
I apologize.
Don't worry about it. We are actually going to have to leave it there. It's not because of the Skype call. Don't worry. Former Congressman Denver Riggleman's book. We got to have you back on the show.
Yeah, I'm just incredible with technology, and I couldn't turn off my Skype.
It happens. It happens. We've all been there, my friend. Former Congressman Denver Riggleman's book is titled Bigfoot, It's Complicated. A congressman and former intelligence officer explores the politics of true believers. We are going to have Denver back on the show very soon. Denver, thank you for your time.
The biggest stories the moment they happen from around the globe. Subscribe to Bloomberg Quick Take now for insight in an instant.